Thanks everyone for coming. For those who aren't here, of course, we'll be videotaping it so we can distribute it that way afterwards, which will probably be helpful for people. Livia, you just wanted to say a couple words?
Good afternoon, everybody. So it looks like everybody else is still having lunch or something like that. Well, I thought this was a very good idea coming from the web team to report on development progress with our institutional website and also the achievement of the magic number of 100, what are they, mini sites at CEU, and also to discuss about plans for the future. This is actually quite important, and rather, instead of giving some kind of congratulations speech, I thought it would be useful to assign you a task. As we are now working on the strategic development plan for the next 5 years, I think it would be very helpful to prepare a short document for the strategic development committee with achievements, developments in the last 2-3 years, and challenges, plans, suggestions that should or could be considered by the Strategic Development Committee for the next 5 years, for example. And this should be very short, 4 or 5 pages, and then, that discussion may become a larger discussion if the Strategic Development Committee takes it up and considers it is important. What I would have said had it not been for this assignment of task, I think we have made pretty good progress in the last several years. We went through a crisis. I don't remember exactly when, 2007 or 6-7, when we realized that institutional website and the use of our website is far behind our ambitions and behind what we thought we were as a university. The situation has improved very significantly, dramatically, even I would say. And, because CEU is such a special institution, many things apply in special ways to us, including when it comes to the use of the website. So this is more important for us than for other universities for recruitment, for example, given the scope of our recruitment. We are one of the very few universities in this part of the world and still in Europe doing fundraising, for example. That function is not very well covered at present. The recruitment function is a lot better covered. There are political aspects. People know about us in Hungary, in the region, a lot from the website. So this is really, it is important for every institution by now, for every university in any case, but it has a particular importance for us. So we have invested quite a lot recently. So the web team has how many staff member working there, half of the audience here. So some 7 people. There are other colleagues in student services who are actually doing, web-based or web-related activities. We invested in the creation of a media lab, which is not there only to serve the web activities, but to a large extent does this with staff and with equipment, which was not there just a year ago. Basically, we are going to create this June, so in a month from now, we will officially announce the start of a communications office at CEU, which will be staffed with qualified people, starting with a director of communications, and that the director of communications will have, special task with regard to, managing the web, developing the web, using the web. So, there is commitment from the administration to continue investment, continue improvements, and I personally thought this would have been, or is, hopefully, a good occasion to see, if there are any kind of comments, feedback from the community, and probably we have to think how to organize this a little bit better. And my suggestion about the memo for the strategic planning committee was, I thought of it in this context. I think as in any other professional activity, the final responsibility resides with professionals. So it is not the job of the community to make sure that we have a good institutional website. This is the job of the people working there primarily, but given the special nature of this activity and the fact that we all use it, it's something that, and a lot of people are experts actually, or pretend at least they are experts, have views, have opinions. So it would be good to find a way to collect feedback from the community, to have some kind of a more interactive discussion. We don't have to have it every day. I know that you have channels to, when people report that something works or doesn't work, but we haven't had this kind of community consultation since 2008 or something like that. And so my suggestion would be, let's think whether it makes sense. I think it makes sense, and then how we could make it happen. But I just wanted to say, and I'll finish with it. Personally, I'm very glad with the progress that has been made there. I have seen the slides before. The numbers are outstanding. I don't always understand what they say, whether 20,000 hits in our case means a lot more than 5,000 hits in the case of other universities. But I think one can sense from the numbers, and one can sense from the activity, from results that we have at CEU, recruitment and other things, that it is working pretty well, just that we have to continue to develop, keep pace with technological developments and other things that happen in the world. So, no. If there will be comments already after this presentation, I think that would be very, very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, I think just following up on Liviu's statement, that's what this is really meant to be, is just the beginning of an open discussion. This is not just a single event which will begin and end here. We want to keep an ongoing discussion with anyone and how we can continually improve the website. So for the moment, though, I'm going to sit down here, because then I can more easily scroll through our slides. Very quickly, obviously, Liviu just gave some opening remarks, and we'll do some further introductions here in a second. I will go into our web visibility. Adam will go into the current system and our upcoming challenges related to that. Stephen into video, how we can take part, and then question and answer. Very quickly, our team members, which comprise approximately half the audience here. We have Stephen V, who's in charge of video, Luba Frolova, who's handling all our support. Probably you've interacted with her in some levels. Erner, who's one of our programmers. Chai, he's our system admin. Without him, everything crashes. And Adam Boros, who's our system architect here as well. Probably you've had some interaction with him. So they're the lifeblood of the team and making this site work. Why did I want to call this event together? Why now? What is it? Well, basically, I think our timing is crucial for several reasons. First is we've amassed a significant amount of content. How much content I'll be showing you in a second. Connected to that is an increasing complexity of our website. At the same time, with those things increasing, we have now 2 years approximately running with this version of the site, so that's also given us some good user experience. And finally, coincidentally, we have the latest version of the content management system, which operates our website, called Drupal, has just been released. And that's something which the deployment of this allows us to do a lot of things right now that we wouldn't be able to do, say, 6 months ago. So, I think now we have the necessity and the opportunity to really, re-engage with the community, begin this dialogue of how to improve, where we can make the best improvements, and move forward. But first, I just want to quickly, let's look at the big picture here. What's been happening? Now, that text is a bit small, as you can see, but basically this is a reflection of the number of mini sites we've had, beginning in the middle of 2009, where we had some 15, 16. Over the time, for the past, let's say, a year and 9 months, we've now just surpassed the 100th mini site. What does that mean? Well, those are departments, schools, research centers, research groups, academic units, administrative units, basically everything you can imagine, big to small, are all a part of this network. For the most part, they are all interconnected onto a single installation of our website. There are a few separations from that, and Autumn will go into that, and that leads us to our challenges. But those are all sitting together on one installation. Those are a lot of websites, as you can imagine, to maintain. Now, these are the number of our individual nodes. What is a node? A node is essentially the core piece of a web page. So it's a profile, it's a course, it's a news and event. It's what populates any given web page. Now that has jumped from beginning of '09, when we first introduced this new website development around 1,000. We're now close to 20,000. You'll see a big spike there. That's when we did import of publication records into the system, bibliographic records. So it's about 20,000 individual nodes. Again, that's a real impressive accumulation of content. Most of this content has been added by our users. That's an important thing, meaning the CEU community, us all entering an event, entering that. That's how we've accumulated that. So it's really all, it's our own communal doing here. Now, not surprisingly, because we have all those additional websites and nodes, at the same time, if we look at Google now, and why I go to Google is because visibility is really the lifeblood of our site. That's what we're essentially striving for. Obviously, look and feel and other aspects come in as well, but visibility is that key aspect. So if we look now, if you do a search for the CEU.to domain, which essentially serves as the standing point for all our constellation of websites, back in 2004, you would find 598 results. Well, it's not so much. And you'll see steadily since that time, 2006, we adopted a content management system. Previous version, let's say it was a bit of a false start, but at least we had a jump in the amount of nodes, a bit of a dip in 2007, and then from 2000...
Why was that, do you know?
Why was, which?
The dip between 2006 and 7.
The dip, that's an excellent question. I think it relates to the previous version of the content management system. We had that dip. 2007 to 8, and then at 8 we started experimenting with this new content management system. 9, we officially launched it, and then going into last year, you can see a massive jump. So this is in essence, the core statistic which drives our website visibility here. So this is how much Google sees everything existing on our domain. Now, related to that, then, is the amount of references to Central European University indexed by Google. Now, this is not only our own website, this is basically throughout the web, right? Now, in almost any search term you're going to search for, you're going to see a general upward trend, right? Because basically now data is being shared in many new, exciting ways, Twitter, Facebook, etc. So almost any search term you're going to see this jump. But that alone can't explain, of course, the jump that we found. So basically, this is some sort of combination of just the amount of times you'll see, a link coming into our site or just some reference that's made to our site out there on the web. So we've seen a steady improvement over the past years from 2004, but then a massive jump from 2009 to 2010, which I think is pretty much directly attributed to this current content management system we had and the system that's underway right now. Now there's a website, webometrics.info, which has recently garnered a lot of attention by us, and it's a pretty well-known site based out of Spain. They analyzed some 20,000 institutions of higher education websites, including ours, and what goes into their rankings, as you can see, visibility is a massive aspect. 50% size is 20%. There are a couple other aspects as well, things that we're working on at the same time, but basically, those recent stats that I was showing you, the visibility and the size, are directly driving how higher education institution websites are being evaluated at the moment. Now, our world rank, this is among 20,000 universities, of course. You can see it's kind of meandered around from the middle 800s, dipped to 900, but the recent one, January 2011, went up to 791. Within Central and Eastern Europe, we've slowly been gaining ground at a pace of about 5 universities per 6 months. So now we're currently ranked 26 in Central and Eastern Europe. Now that might not at first glance seem so impressive. In only Central and Eastern Europe, we're only 26. Why that? We should, we're called Central European University, right? So we should do something better than that. Well, I think there's a key reason for that, and that's something that Webometrics doesn't account for, and that's student body size, right? It doesn't normalize for student body size. As we know, we're somewhere between 1,000 and 2,000 students, depending on what's happening with us, but not that many students, certainly compared to many Western European United States universities. So what I've done, you really won't be able to read this, so I'll read it out for you, is I searched through collegedata.com, which is an excellent site, which basically you can really drill down deep in terms of graduate institutions, Do they have a graduate student component? How many people? Liberal arts, you name it. So you can refine by a lot of things. So I did some refinements there, and I have included Bard College, which is probably most of you know is our sister college in upstate New York, Vassar, another upstate New York college, Lewis and Clark, which is in Oregon, Bryn Mawr, which is in Pennsylvania. These are all universities that have roughly 1,500 to 2,000 students, very competitive, private institutions, and of their Google Pages indexed, they're all less than ours, basically. Then you go to this right, and for comparison's sake, so that's nice for us in the sense that if you compare it to similar universities in the U.S. that we have more pages indexed than them. But then if we go to say, and I picked out, and you can do this exercise almost indefinitely, but Brown College, Boston College. Brown is an Ivy League institution. Boston College, a very well-known institution in the Northeast U.S. And you can see they have, well, let's say about 2 to 3 times the pages indexed as us. But importantly, they have a student body population that's 6 to 7 times as us. And I've repeated this exercise with a lot of different schools, and the numbers basically are proximate to this in almost every case. So essentially what we're saying is our pages per student ratio is excellent. And I think that, which it's kind of a weird thing to say, but it's actually important because bigger institutions necessarily, they'll have more courses, more faculty, more everything, so they will produce more page content. You can't escape that fact. So the fact that we have that excellent ratio, I think belies our number in webometrics, and if maybe they will, institute some kind of normalization for future versions of it. But we're looking very good when we normalize for that. So the big picture aspects, I think we've seen a lot of very quick positive growth within the past couple of years. Rapid growth, of course, brings with it challenges. I don't know how well you can see this image. This is a kind of Indian cyclical death to rebirth photo there. But as I like to call, I don't think there's so much challenges, I think there are good problems, right? So we have this website, we've seen a lot of growth. We've seen a lot of people use it at once, we've seen it grow very rapidly, and that's good. I mean, it would be better than if we had this website and we had, 1,000 nodes instead of 20,000. But because we have these 20,000, now we have some things we need to deal with. And just noting the timing now is crucial, and that's what we're going to get into in a second. But I'm just going to give you a broad brush base of these challenges. Autumn's going to elaborate on exactly how we're going to deal with those challenges going forward. Three main ones. One is quality. Just what I mean by quality is when a user adds an event or a news item or this and that, do they put the photo in the right way? Do they copy their text in the right way? Do they make the references? We've seen a lot of improvements with this. We've given a lot of seminars to help users with this, but this is something that still will need more improvement. I mean, it's just something, I think in general, when Microsoft Word started in the early 90s, people were just learning how to use it and improving their use with it, something same like this. It can be used, but there are things that we can do to help you with that, and Autumn will speak a bit about that. Second is even distribution of content. I call this a rising tide versus a water plume. Basically, what's existing now, I would say, is more or less a water plume. So spikes of water, meaning very active units who are producing a lot of content versus other units who are producing next to nothing. Whereas I would like to see it turn into more of a rising tide where everyone is producing content, that this is increasing at relatively the same rate. This is really a communication challenge at its core, and I think that the incoming communications office is going to be able to help a lot. We hope to partner with them closely on how to even this out. And this also goes for video as well, not only web content. And then finally, scaling. Again, very rapid growth. We had just a few features, a few content types a couple of years ago. Those have all gone up almost exponentially. Now we have, some 50 content types. We started out with
34.
Only 34? Feels like 50. Whereas we started with, let's say, 6, up to 34 features, the same amount, complexity, how to authenticate, do we want to open up our authentication to the world or just leave it to within the CEU community only? These are open questions, all dealing with scalability. So now, how do we deal with these challenges? I want to turn it to Autumn so he can make that point.
So, So greetings everyone, my name is Adam. I'm working at the web unit as the system architect. My job is to come up with new ideas and solutions for arising needs of the community. I will talk shortly about the future of CEU websites today, trying to give you a quick overview of what we have in our mind for the future. Right now we have one Drupal instance running over 100 websites. What this means that those websites are essentially one website, right? So we have one central website which is capable of serving content to different domains. So based on the domain, it will serve a different list of profiles on one domain and another, but essentially all the profiles are living within one website. This has many advantages. The most used advantage, or the best benefit of it, is that it's very easy to share content among any website in the system. For instance, if you take a look at Professor Chirp's profile on the main CEU website, you can find the same piece of content on the Environmental Sciences and Policy website. At the same time, you can find the exact same piece of content on the masspom.eu website, right? These are all the same content, so it's not a replica or read from somewhere else, it's the same piece of content. And at the end, in the publications repository, we can display data from this profile on the right-hand sidebar when browsing through Alex publications. The other benefit of it is that all features of this system are available to all websites in the system. So once we develop a feature and publish it, then any website in the system can immediately use that. For instance, this is the list of courses on the Department of History website. So let's say they have the need for filtering the courses. So they come up with this request. We develop a feature for filtering the courses, which you can see on the right-hand sidebar. Immediately, we can deploy the same thing to any website on the system. Let's say Department of Public Policy. There you have the same filtering function. You have the same filtering function on DPP. You have the same filtering function on the main CEU website. So this is very good. At the same time, using such a system has several drawbacks as well. The first is that the system, which we built over 2 years and contains now over 100 websites, is really suffering from a thing we call featureitis. I will go deep into that later on. The latter two is actually coming from the first one, so I only discussed what this featureitis thing means, right? So this is a subset of 4 content types previously mentioned by Brandon. A content type is something which you can submit to the website. So you go to the website, you go to create content, and you will find a list of things which you can create. Now, if you take a look at this, then, well, first let's clear it out that a feature is not a content type, right? But a feature is originating from a content type, because if I have a content type, let's say news, I don't want only to put news in the system, but I need also ways to display these news items, filter them, have RSS feeds of them, and the group of these functions around the content type is called a feature, okay? But for simplicity, let's just pretend that the content type is a feature, okay? So you can see that we have many features, but actually we have many as well, which are not used by all the sites in the system. For instance, a non-academic unit like HR will never want to publish a course to its website, right? Because they don't have courses. At the same time, an academic unit, a department, will never want to publish a job vacancy, right? So we have many features in the system, and actually more than half of them are used by a very limited number of websites. So for instance, the job vacancy content type is only used by the HR website, HRO's website, but it's there for everyone else, meaning that it slows down everyone else, adds unnecessary complexity to everyone else, and it's not a good idea to have such a thing. I can compare our current website to this tool, which is a multifunction tool, no question. It can do anything. I mean, you can repair a bike with it or magnify something or anything else, but if you want to make a slice of bread, then it's pretty hard to slice with it because it's very hard to hold in your hand, right? So instead of this, let's just have tools for the right purpose. Let's narrow down, let's create target groups or identify target groups within the community and create clusters for them. Okay? So probably most of the time you would use this, right? The main advantage of the system mentioned before is that you can share content among the websites. Now, with some content types, we do this a lot, like with profiles. On this diagram, you can see that how much profiles are affiliated with how many websites, right? So only 6% of the profiles is published to one single website, and more than half of it are affiliated with 3 or even more websites. It's very usual that an academic profile is affiliated with 4 different units having 4 different websites. But even this huge benefit of sharing content is not used among all the content types we have. If you take a look at the same diagram of news items, then you will see that most of news items are only published to one website. Right? So I published a news item to my website, but there is no need for display it on 5 other websites. So this is featured. So what about future plans? How to attack this current situation we have, or what ideas do we have? Because naturally we continuously think about how to improve this thing. Well, as Brandon mentioned, we have a momentum now. Drupal 7 was released in this spring, which was developed over 3 years. More than 1,000 contributors contributed to code. This is a huge amount of work, a massive list of improvements which we could take advantage of, and we should take advantage of. So based on Drupal 7, maybe we need to reconsider some things and build new systems for the community. The main idea is that we should have, instead of having one huge system serving everyone's needs, which is kind of impossible, let's create a subset of websites and organize them into clusters for different types. For instance, there could be a cluster, well, let's take a look at those 4, right? This is what we have now. We have one huge system, various types of websites, many individual websites organized into 3 or 4 types. Let's make order here and create clusters like this. So we would have a separate system for academic units. This is basically the 16 schools and departments we have. We will have another website system which is targeted to non-academic units, right? They don't want to have academic programs. They don't have an academic calendar probably and such. They want to publish news items, maybe events, they have projects and kind of job vacancies, but most of the time they just share pages. Research centers, because that's also a very specific use case. They are different from non-academic units, and they are also different from academic units, and there will be always special cases. So the question might arise that, okay, but what about content sharing then? The idea here is, let's have central repositories for content which we mostly do want to share. Taking the profile example, there could be a place which we call, let's say, people.ceu.hu, and that's a central repository for profiles. Whenever you want to create an academic profile or update your profile, you just go to people.ceu.hu, you log in there, and there is no clutter or complexity. You have a very simple user interface, because this is a special tool just to allow you to edit your profile. There is no noise, you won't be distracted by recent news items or whatsoever. You just go there, edit your profile, update it, and then with, let's say, magic, it will populate to other websites. So the idea is that this cluster, when in this cluster, the Department of Environmental Sciences wants to show a list of people in the department, it will run a query against that central repository and get the data from there. So that data does not even exist here. Okay? And by magic, I mean we have some 3 or 4 different exact technical roads to try out, but this is a question of further experimenting with those 4 ways. And then we will pick the proper one. So the same repository idea might work with news items, events, academic programs, and courses, maybe even with projects. This is a question of further discussion. There will be follow-up events regarding this thing, I'm sure. And the special tools. Well, even if we create those clusters for website types, there will always be special cases. So there will always be some case which won't fit into any cluster. And the practice so far was that no matter what, we will try to force it into the main system, right? This leads to featureitis, where we are now. Just for the sake of HR, we created a job vacancy content type, which is not used by anyone else. Instead, maybe it would be nice to have a central job board, which is the job repository, and it's doing nothing else, just publishing jobs. We already started this because we saw that this is a problem like 6 months ago. So since that, we have developed some unique cases, which I will show you now. This is a tool developed for the Alumni and Career Office, which is called the online resume book. Students can log in with their novel IDs, fill out a form serving as a resume, and then later on employers log in and can filter students and such. This is something called the ID card photo submission tool for incoming students. They get an email invite to upload their photo, and they will log into this form, fill their name, choose a photo, and save it. That's it. It's a very simple tool. I really like it. And this is the CEU payments gateway, which was just recently released. You can pay deposits or conference fees or whatsoever via credit card on this website. So this is also a very separate special case, obviously. Now, these are the plans we have, or this is the state where my mind is, and I'm really into improving this system, and hopefully we will have more events like this, and we can discuss how to exactly approach this thing. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Adam. That was an excellent snapshot into your current mind state. Let's need to drag over Stevens right now. Where did you hide that?
I just picked the other 4 fields down.
Yeah, no, I'm there, but it's not showing.
Because the mouse is on the screen.
Oh, we got it. Thank you. So, yeah, thank you very much. And then I just want a very quick word before getting to the video bits, and that, no, I mean very quick. You know, the scaling issues that we're having with the website activities, I think, are very much running in parallel to what we're having with video. So I think similar to showing the achievements and challenges we did with the web, I think this fits very similar into Stephen's activities with the Media Lab and with video. So with that, thank you, Steve.
So thanks, guys. I promise this will be quick and painless, even though it involves a slideshow. Look, you know, I think it's really important to emphasize what Adam just finished talking about, which is the sort of magic of the website. The website, they've created a backbone, our entire web team has created a backbone that is prepared to be populated with content. Content that students can create, that faculty can create, that staff can create. And it's really, I think the onus is on all of us, myself included as sort of an insider, outsider in the web unit, to start really sort of taking advantage of a lot of these tools. Now, obviously, a lot of that content can be generated by users through the content management system and through the gateways that these guys have created. One thing that we think, though, something that's a little harder for people to put together is video content. And that's part of the reason that I was brought on, was to actually do some content creation. So of all those content types and features that Anam just featured, I really only deal with one of them while they deal with 36 of them. But it's one that I think we all agree, at least in our team, and of course I think is very important for all of us. So what I want to do is just quickly lay out sort of what the Media Lab is, our sort of main functions, talk about mostly video production and video content production, and why it's important and what we're going to do next. So with that, we'll open. So the first question is, what does the Media Lab do? Our principal duty, and the one that I'll spend most of my time talking about, is video recording and production services. So basically, a lot of units and departments think of us as sort of a contractor. We come in, we'll videotape your event, will help you put on some kind of production for your website, and will help you put it online and publish it. I'll get into more of that in just a second. The second thing that we do, of course, is video editing and production training. Part of my mandate is also to help manage our media lab, which is on the 4th floor of Nodor 15. If you haven't been there, please stop by. We run 30 open hours of lab time each week, closely supervised by myself and 2 part-time student employees. And it's a place where any student, faculty, or staff member of this university can come and learn basic production skills. We're outfitted with great equipment, state-of-the-art software, broadcast quality gear, and I really encourage anyone who's interested to come up and check it out. And lastly, course collaboration, which I won't talk about as much, but we've been working with a couple of courses to help develop video content with their students. So, tooting our own horns a bit, what have we done? In addition to the 30 hours of weekly open lab time that I discussed, and the specialty course workshops, and our seminars that we run every month that are introductory to introduce people to the services that we provide, we've also produced 106 original video productions since August 23rd of 2010. Go. Really? Yes. And what does that include? It includes special features about campus reconstruction. This is when we were on the roof of the faculty tower shooting a helicopter dropping off an air conditioning unit. Guest lectures like Javier Solana, who was here last fall. Press events, the release of our collaboration with the Siemens Corporation. We did a special interview between the CEO of Siemens and John Shattuck here on site. Produced field pieces just last month. I was in Vilnius, Lithuania to shoot a reunion event and also 10 individual alumni interviews for use in video productions now and hopefully in the future. Event coverage. This is from the International Festival at the dormitory. Keep an eye out for a Sports Day video coming soon. Our teaser's already on the website. And of course interviews, in-depth interviews with faculty, members talking about their research, talking about their special projects, and student profiles as well. But is anyone watching? Basically, our YouTube channel, which forms the backbone of our video content, which launched in November 2008, it has hosted 115,000 views since that launch. Not bad. 68,000, or about 69,000 of those visits have come since August of last year, which is when this video initiative here started, about 8 months ago. That means 60% of our views have been in the last 8 months alone. That's a big jump. Now, why? What's changed? I think there's one obvious answer, which is significantly more content. We've more than doubled the amount of video content that's on our website. Obviously, that's going to pull in more traffic and more views, but it goes deeper than that. We have specifically increased our activity on both Facebook and YouTube. Facebook, I think, is a major conduit for us. Not only is it heavily used in North America, it is heavily used in this region. It is something that our students, through our recruitment office, very nicely are acquainted with very early on in their time here. Individual departments host their own Facebook sites. Our students know it. They use it frequently. Our Facebook interactions have gone up tremendously since we started launching video content. Anyone who's on the Facebook in this room, I hope it's many of you, probably know that a lot of Facebook content now is being developed around video. It is important that our Facebook pages be populated with video content. The more activity we have, the more people that we draw in. And finally, the launch of an internal video player. In addition to all of the many other things that the web team has been working on, they also developed a website for all of our video content, ceu.hu/videos. Go to it. Now, I want to sort of drill down a little bit about why this is important and what kinds of video content we have on the web, the kinds of things that have been popular, and the kinds of things we need to be doing to continue populating our website with high-quality video content. This is our most popular video in the last 8 months. It is a pretty basic video, actually. It's a montage of all of the events from this fall's open house event that the Student Recruitment Office hosted. Now, of course, something like a recruitment event, it's something they can blast out to a lot of people. It's something that gets a lot of hits on our website and also from YouTube, where we get a lot of cross-traffic from people searching for higher education, Central European affairs and such. That's the number of views it has. Remember, a little over 3,000, which is pretty good for us. In fact, most of the views for this video, though, are coming from an embedded player on another website. That means that our tentacles are sort of reaching outward. that this video has been placed not only on our own website, but on external websites. Now that includes Facebook, when we post it to our own Facebook site, but actually, if we look even closer, what's really driven content here, this video was picked up by a Croatian scholarship finding website that is apparently popular in Croatia. I was unfamiliar with it, and my Croatian is not great. It was posted on their website. Because we use YouTube, that means any of our videos can be embedded anywhere on the web. So think about that for a minute. In addition to the rich amount of content that we have at our core, it gives us a flyer, it gives us a calling card, something we can drop on other sites, that we can populate social media sites with, and something that's going to draw people in. It's really important. Now, one interesting thing about all of this is that of our most popular videos in this 8-month period, at this sort of sophisticated drive to create more video content, 9 out of the 10 are merely event videos. And what do I mean by event videos? This is coverage without any sort of production work, that is, interviews or staging or anything like that, just setting up a camera, perhaps in the rear of a room, and capturing an event, or going out and shooting an event like Sports Day. Most of our views are coming from those types of video. And while I love specialty productions, I like going out and shooting interviews and creating special productions for our website, event videos on our site garner on average a 25% larger audience than produced videos. In sum, people care about what we're up to, okay? We have, for a university of our size, an outsized number of major events, an outsized number of major speakers and guest lecturers, and it's things that other people care about. When Javier Solana comes here and gives a speech, it's not just our internal community that cares, but it's a much larger community that cares as well. Now, what does all this mean? As I already talked about, it functions as a calling card. I mean, let's take the Javier Solana video, for example. Every piece of video that we produce has our name on it. It has our logo on it. It links back to our website. It shows related content, related video content, to the content that someone's just viewed. And this is important because, as we've talked about, we now have this amazing backbone for content on our website, but having a website increasingly means having video content. For anyone who is a frequent web user, the websites that you are visiting are populated by video content. And it's an important piece of running a website that is competitive with our peer schools. That said, we need to follow their lead. A lot of our peer schools are covering every single event that they do. They're getting high amounts of traffic from these kinds of things. They're getting news placement from these kinds of things. It serves a promotion effort. It serves a public education effort, all things that match with our mission. But what's more, it's not just about selling ourselves. It's not just about promotion. It's a good way to get the word out about the work that we're doing. People here are doing some amazing research, some amazing events, some amazing things that are happening, and video isn't the only way to communicate that to a larger audience, but it's an excellent way to do it. So that gets us to the core point here, which is what's next. As it stands now, I'm the only full-time employee who's staffed a video production here. We have 2 part-time student employees as well that assist me in these efforts. But what we really need to start doing is fanning out, making sure that we're covering major events and sophisticated things that are happening here with regularity and, as Brandon mentioned before, with a sort of evenness. Right now, we sort of suffer from, like Brandon said, spikes of interest from certain departments or units. If you look at our video content, 20% comes from a single administrative unit, 20% comes from the business school, less than 1% is coming from international relations and European studies. We need to fix this. We need to have our video content reflective of the things that we're doing here on a better scale. So that's about more content and diversified content. But we also need to be focused in our content. We need to be selective about the projects that we pursue. We need to pursue them in a professional way. One of the things that I hope that we're bringing to video production here is that they're of high quality and they're of a standard quality, so that when people see video content coming from us, it's recognizable, it has certain logos and imprints that people will recognize belong to us, and we create a brand for ourselves through video. And this is, of course, something that we'll be working closely in conjunction with the new communications office on. But we also want to have student-led content. We have a media lab, we have the facilities to do this. Starting in the fall, we're hoping to launch a production boot camp, where we can bring students, faculty, and staff members who are interested in learning some of these skills and actually teaching them skill by skill how to do it. There's a rising interest in doing it, especially for aspiring journalists, people who are in the communications field. This is becoming an increasingly important skill. And finally, of course, higher quality content, as I mentioned. So that's pretty much it. These are the two portals where you can view most of our video content, and I think we look forward to taking your questions about it. Thanks.
Thanks a lot, Stephen. That was another excellent overview of our current video work here. I just had one more slide, but I'm not going to do a painful try to finding it, because basically all that was contained on that slide, thanks, Livia, all that was contained on that slide was how to take part. So right now it's simple. Just stay tuned for information from us. We're going to be creating a web form whereby everyone can easily contribute the type of information we'll be needing in the next couple months. Adam was talking about this cluster concept, and this is something we're right now really looking at closely. We are certain that the current way, this single installation with all the websites encased in that, is not going to be the way forward. We're going to have to alter it. Likely it's going to take the form of this clustering, but we're going to communicate with the entire community on how exactly we might do this, and we'll be piloting some version of this from the late summer, basically. So with that, I think that's pretty much it. And if there are any questions to anyone from the team or whatever, we're happy to take them.
In person?
Sorry?
In person.
Aaron, you can ask me. Yeah, in person, or just write us or whatever. Okay, that's good. Well, oh yeah, Victor.
No, I don't comment on question. Thanks for a nice presentation. I mean, just first thing first, right? So it's really tremendous improvement, all this project. Website, what we have now, this content management system and involvement of the people and video production and everything, it really made it, the whole CEU is really visible online, and whatever I'm doing any searches of my projects, for instance, if I have my own project, for instance, online, or my own website, and if I'm doing some search in Google, it was always from somewhere else. Now, first line will be always coming from CEU, right? So it will be always the first, even if I have my own website.
And that's a reflection of those first numbers we saw, yeah.
So that's one of the things. So and I was like witnessing all those changes in website development since year, I don't know, 10 years? I was doing these websites for CEU since 99, 98 probably, so I just know how hard it is, and what was it before, and I do remember this CEU redesign project, if you remember, 2006, 2007.
I remember it all.
So it's really great development. Thanks, guys. And actually, Silat also might support this. When I was really skeptical about this whole idea, and when we had those meetings with Alec, and Alec was driving it forth and promoting it, and I was really skeptical, and I was criticizing it. So it's my little confession, and I have to say that I'm really impressed. So it's really a good job which was done over those last year, probably. So it's a very good job. But
Thank you.
now, yes.
Yes. But.
Now, I just have a little doubt that production, as much content as possible, is a good sign of development. Because if you have more features, if you have more content, the system is more complicated, harder for customers is to use it and to deal with it, and more frustrated they get into be, and less useful content will be provided. And it's some kind of dead end problem.
Couldn't agree more with you.
From this perspective, what you want to do is this clustering would be really nice idea, probably. But here's my question comes. How are you planning to do it? Facing the need to support all those more than 100 units.
Yeah, well, that is the challenge, of course, because we do, well, first of all, we have a web unit now, which didn't exist until 2010, beginning of 2010. So that's at least step one. There is an actual unit devoted to the web. That didn't previously exist. Yeah, well, we have to do it very carefully, and we have to make a lot of priorities. With the current resources we have, there's simply no way. You know, we don't have a single developer to operate every single website. We just have a couple developers. We have, in essence, one support person. So that's a lot of incoming. You know, we have 3,000 support threads a year. Those are threads, not just individual emails. So, you know, it's a balance we have to make. You know, clearly at any opportunity, we're going to be hoping to add to our resources. But in lieu of that, basically we're just making a big division of our time, which at the beginning is a little bit, you know, let's say 20, 25% devoted to this investigation purposes, clustering, how we can do. Something we just kind of do for fun in a way on the side. It's a mental exercise, but a vital exercise, one that we hope and we are sure will turn into, you know, the actual next version of the site. And that's kind of background work. But as we get to a stage where we think we're ready to pilot, let's say, a single one of these clusters, not all, but one, let's say starting with research centers, for example, that's what we've talked about starting with. And let's just bring in a few, similar to how we did with the overall rollout to the previous version of the site, is we want to identify some early adopters within that single cluster, you know, deploy that somewhere, work with them, and see if we can build that and see if we can make a successful model out of a single cluster like that. Then we can slowly ratchet up our time to be devoted to that version sitting to the side while we still are maintaining, you know, what's sitting in the side, the actual current site. So it's a challenge, but basically it's a slow ratcheting up of time from this soon-to-be version versus our current version. And if we are going with this cluster method and we're releasing them one by one, then slowly but surely, you know, all our support will be going from dealing with this version of the site to this version and so on. Because once we are able to move over, so once we're able to deploy a cluster, then it's up, it's live. There won't be two, you know, we won't have two versions of research center sites. There'll only be one version. So that will in essence be only one thing to support. That's how we're envisioning this. So did you have a,
Yeah,
yes.
nice idea. Just in general trying to imagine. So if you're
If-
developing a completely new system from scratch. Yes.
In essence, yes. In essence, yes. In the background, not,
Yes.
you know, but in essence, yes.
But then probably the whole system should change the existing system at the same time, not in pieces, not in clusters. Is that correct? I don't know.
Well, it's a development question, you know,
So can you just
it's-
simply change it in clusters?
This is something we need to research first. I mean,
Yeah, so I'm just trying to think how much work it should be done by you. So
we need to set up
I
primary.
totally respect and
Yeah.
I admire your work and your ability to
Sure.
work, but I'm just afraid that.
well, you know, if we're confident in the model we have, and we know that this model we've developed, which we will be talking about and developing in the near future, if we see that, you know, to make this model work, we're going to need plus X amount of resources or whatnot, then, you know, we're going to make a pitch for that, of course. We're going to try to be as efficient as we can. But it might be that we run into a situation where we simply don't have the resources to release this in the way which we like, in which case we'll attempt to get more. But, you know, we're still in this kind of learning phase. Drupal 7 is recently released. We've, you know, accumulated all these experiences. We're kind of trying to take this huge pot of stuff, distill it down into its core parts, and then how can we best, you know, republish this out? And more importantly, what model can we use to do this in terms of workflow?
One more important feature is like the bunch of those hooked users or hooked units, or those who admire your work, or those hundreds who is really following and trying to use this nice system you have built. And they will be waiting for some developments, and they will be asking for some changes to existing.
Sure.
Yes, so we have to-
Well, that's a communication issue. It's something that we've periodically done with individual units, just trying to, you know, manage expectations. Say, you know, for the moment, you're going to have to be happy with the current features you have because, you know.
Do you want to make this kind of similar project, like what was it? Website redevelopment project, asking the whole CEU community what they think, what sort of background should be. I just do remember those questions.
Something like that, but more targeted. So we're gonna target this feedback collection to what we anticipate
So
will
you're
be.
going to process it or to treat it also yourself and to.
Well, when we published the let's say larger full version of the previous version of the CEU website, that we did go out to various constituents, bit from student, bit from faculty, alumni, kind of pulled them all together, the general kind of, you know, assigned them as early adopter roles, gave them tasks to do, feedback, Whereas now we wouldn't look at that from a university-wide approach. Rather, we have this notion of what's going to work well. That is, we're going to break the university down into its constituent parts. So now we're just going to approach those parts. So it could be that we're only dealing with, you know, 3 or 4 faculty members at first, or members of administration from research centers only to begin with. You know, then we would go over to departments, administrative units, et cetera. So that's the idea here. Martin.
two questions, if you allow. One is this technical development and a switch towards 777. You know, what's the time frame of this? Like half a year, 5 years? You know, I have no idea.
Yeah.
And second one, you talked about the content spikes being, you know, not a rising time.
Yeah.
What do you think is the midterm solution of this? I mean, is it maybe encouraging professors to write a news item about their own events? Or is it maybe getting a PR department in CEU that will service in this professional looking and professional sounding content?
Starting with the second question, yeah, essentially that. I mean, I have a lot of high hopes for this communication office. I guess it's going to be staffed by obviously a director and then either one or two others. And it's something that there really needs to be a mandate and a direction given to an administrative level, you know, that's given this power to essentially dictate to departments and units, like, you have to produce X amount of works, be it videos, be it news items per month. We need benchmarks, right? I mean, I've kind of proposed these in internal documents, but there's no champion for this. So I'm hoping that the communications office can kind of serve to be a champion for this, and at the same time maybe even produce some of these items, you know, on behalf of the departments, because we've run into a lot of issues with the departments that some are very adept at, you know, creating these items, whereas others don't either want or claim that they don't know how, or I don't, you know, so there's some issues there. It's kind of beyond our competency as a web unit to be able to try to generate this. So we're hoping that from the communication level they can do this. Regarding the timeline, less than the 5-year mark and more than the 6-month mark. I'm hoping that we can be earnestly piloting this piece of this first version of what we want to do by the end of the summer, like that will all be in place. We're going to be sending out communication to the community within a week or so that's giving out the form, the method to collect feedback on this. And we will collect feedback, obviously, just from everyone for anything, but then very quickly we're going to be breaking that down into pieces. So I anticipate that, you know, all goes according to plan. Within an academic year, we could have, or let's say 1 calendar year from the end of this summer, so meaning end of summer 2012, we could have all these clusters published in this new fashion. Niels?
One random remark and one question. When you mentioned that profiles are being published to various mini-sites and events and not, unless something has changed recently, I think for every event you want to publish in various mini-sites, you need to send an email to poor. Even I think for profiles or sort of permanent content, you're likely to do it, but for an event that's over the week, you'd rather not trouble the web team if avoidable. So if you find a way of integrating publishing options into the system, you might find that cross-published events and other things scale up very rapidly, actually.
It's something we've discussed just a couple days ago with, I mean, it's very much on our, but thank you, yeah.
I'm very glad to hear that you want to shift the burden of producing videos to departments, because I think medieval is very apt at that. But my question would be, are there any plans in the drawer to produce a sort of recruitment introduction video for every unit? I mean, it might be nice if somebody goes to history, medieval studies, public policy, whatever, and there's actually video on their website.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's actually a
Agreed.
pilot that we started. Our pilot is DPP.
Sounds like brilliant way of learning students.
Yeah, our pilot was DPP, and also the business school, we created sort of a prototype with some of the students and some other material that we have. But you're absolutely right. But at the same time, it does require, you know, I mean, we can provide as many talking points for a department as we want, but it requires a partnership with the department. You know, it's not something that we can sort of treat as sort of a third-party issue where we come in and fly in, you know, sort of parachute in and produce something and fly out. So I think right now, and again, you know, we're 8 months in, we're piloting it one at a time, and you know, going with some institutional priorities. And I think it's a good point. But if I can step back for a second and also highlight that, you know, we're not quite there yet in some ways. You know, I mean, I think part of the point of what I was saying earlier was that, look, we need to build up our bread and butter first. We need to build up sort of coverage and making sure our name is getting out there with some basic things, and then think more in terms of, okay, for more sophisticated products like this, you know, which are the most valuable? Are they program related? Are they university wide? Are they targeted to 1 year or 2 years? So there's a lot of questions to be answered as well. But I completely agree with you. I think that that going department to department is a high priority.
Maybe if you allow one short comment, Stephen. From a marketing point of view, it's often good to have original content. Not so much promotional videos, of course we need a few, but as I think you pointed out, most of of the videos that are popular are from events. One of the key things we have to provide is original content. People are less concerned with our features and how many months and which ranking and which professors when they have the kind of impression that something valuable is going on. It's like with every business. So the more we can provide good talks and show our research or host events and so on and just talk about it, this is like, I think, massively more credibility building with anybody out there than sort of promotional things.
I would just add that, I think these things should be done parallelly because, okay, mass production kind of like videoing all the events and all the lectures for just for the sake of recording and for internal use, or maybe it would be interesting from outside audience as well. But I think on the other hand, it would be important to have promotional materials as well, or for example, the featured events as well, because for example, for our office, it would be important as a marketing tool to have like selected events or selected content. But for the whole university, of course, it's important to have the, I just call it mass production, recording all sorts of events and have a repository.
Yeah, and we're very much hoping for some strong guidance from the communication office on this, on how to, dealing with the resources we have, how to, split up essentially Stephen's time at this moment, or do we, add a second Stephen, for example, and be able to ramp that up.
You cut off my arm.
There couldn't possibly be a second Stephen. But,
Wow.
Yeah.
How do the events we use work? I mean, can units with a prominent speaker coming up apply for it? Or
Right, so the way that we've run is we have a web form that people can fill out. The problem is people aren't as aware of the web form, and the ones who know about us don't use it. They call me, basically, or they email me.
Yeah.
So it's you're right, and that's our problem. I mean, we have not developed a workflow yet. I mean, part of one of the reorganizations in the communications office, and as well as at large, there's a lot of thought to how we throw events at CEU.
There's a much greater barrier to entry, obviously, to video content than there is with the, essentially for writing a news item, it's can I use a computer and operate Word?
That's what I'm
And
saying. We have to persuade faculty members.
Sure, yeah, it's a constant challenge. We've had kind of brainstorms with campaigns with different units, which have not necessarily gone as well as we've liked, but I have high hopes for the communications office that it's going to carry a torch for this, because we're not resourced in a way which is necessary for the actual creation of content. I mean, I can kind of write some items, and I do that on occasion, but basically.
That you don't have to do, so you have to try to put it on other shoulders.
Sure. Sure.
Just I'm from the department.
Well, as soon as they arrive, we'll have a very long meeting with them, and I'll be giving a lot of my suggestions on what we might do to get the ball rolling on that. So hopefully they'll be amenable to those suggestions.
I myself of fighting,
Yeah.
As the department, I will say, look, please go and do it. This content management system is how it's supposed to be done.
Yeah.
And even having the best development issues, development features that you might create without content, it's nothing. It's not visible.
Quality is our challenge number one, as I had up on there. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks our little crew for coming. Thanks for filming, and we'll put out the video later.